Person, and this is the Outlet Forum with my esteemed co-host Chris Camello. What up, Chris?
It is officially the off season, but perhaps the best season for the NBA. What up, Chaz?
Best season for the NBA. We got a packed show for you guys in this week's edition of the Outlet Forum. NBA Draft. Cooper Flag is officially a Dallas Maverick. Well, maybe not officially because he's still got to sign that contract, but we got all the NBA draft picks coming up. We'll talk everything happening with NBA trade season. KD to Houston officially, absolutely. And we'll get into some of the early extension signings, a couple in Houston, one in Dallas. But Chris, we got to start off first. Like the NBA isn't the NBA without having an NBA champion. And
Mm-hmm.
now we officially have one. It was the wagon of a team in the OKC Thunder who absolutely obliterated the Indiana Pacers without Tyrese Halliburton, awful injury, especially in a game 7. We'll get into all of that as well, most
Yeah.
definitely. But Chris, the champs are here. They had their parade. SGA, it was almost 100 degrees out there. SGA, Jalen Williams, uh, Caruso, everybody out there talking shit, doing their thing. Wiggins had the best speech. Um, I got to give it to you first, man. What do you make of the championship? And what does this mean for that team moving forward now that they're so young and already have one up under their belt?
Yeah, and by the way, you're doing great so far, partner. I know you're not 100% right now, but hey, this is what we do,
Hey,
man. We grind, we put our noses to the grindstone, and we sort everything out later on. So appreciate
no
you being
doubt.
able to roll through tonight and being able to get past the show. Yeah, first of all, shout out to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They were the best team all season long. They were tested in these playoffs, and unlike last year, Chaz, they responded to the challenges. In these finals, they were tested. I mean, that was a heartbreaking game 1 loss, and that could have really derailed them if this was a year ago, but it didn't. It rallied them. You know, they were down 1-0, then they were down 2-1. They were down in the fourth quarter of game 4. They were perhaps minutes away from a 3-1 series deficit, and they found a way to tie the series to 2-2, took control in game 5. Indiana fought back in game 6, and in game 7, yes, they won, but the bigger story was what happened to Tyrese Halliburton, and just a very, debilitating injury. It was heartbreaking to see him snap his Achilles tendon on his right leg, where he had been battling the calf, the calf strain throughout this series, and you could see it once you slow down. You could see it actually snap in real time, and it was just horrible because
Yeah, man.
Halliburton was outstanding in these playoffs. Even Rick Carlisle said this was one of the best individual postseasons you're going to see from any player, and certainly any player of recent memory. And this guy put this organization on his back. Yeah, maybe there were some nights where the numbers weren't very flashy, but his impact was there. And this guy wanted to be out there. I know a lot of people were saying, well, if this was the regular season, he would have sat multiple weeks. Dude, we're in game 5, game 6 of the regular season. Of the NBA Finals. We're not in the regular season. So, yeah, he understood the risk. I know a lot of people were saying this and that. He shouldn't have played. But you know what? He made that decision, and he has to live with that. And I respect it because, to be honest, Chaz, show me a player that wouldn't have tried to play through that, right? I mean, yes, if you tear something, an ACL, an Achilles, okay, it is heartbreaking. But you also, because it could happen even just in a non-contact injury, check Jason Tatum in the second round against the Knicks. But he wanted to be there for his team, and he was cooking in the early minutes of game 7, man. And I think the biggest question people were going to have in that game 7 is, what if? What if he didn't go down? Maybe Oklahoma City still wins. Maybe, right? They had the home court. SGA was, even though he had a rough shooting night, he still did enough to help his team. But it would have been great to see, both teams fully healthy, duking it out in a game 7. And that's, I think, was the worst part of it. But shout out to Hallie. Shout out to the Indiana Pacers. They got nothing to be ashamed of. I understand it's heartbreaking to get to that point and lose. Nothing worse than losing the game 7. You could ask the 2000. I'm sorry, not the 2000. You could ask the 2005 Detroit Pistons. You could ask the Golden State Warriors in 2016. You could ask, the San Antonio Spurs in 2013. nothing worse than losing a game 7, especially in the NBA Finals. But I think
Yeah.
given, I'm going to turn it back over to you, but given what Indiana went through this season and given the fact that who they had to beat to get to this point, they got nothing to be ashamed of. They gave every team their best shot. They ran through the East as a 4 seed, which was not easy, and they gave perhaps the best team in the league all year a run for their money and forced them to a game 7. So in my book, Rick Carlisle, Chad Buchanan, Kevin Pritchard deserve a round of applause. The entire the state of Indiana, the city of Indianapolis, the entire Pacers organization and that fan base has got a lot to be proud of for this team because, and even up in game 7, they fought to the bitter end, man. Even with 2 minutes to go and a double-digit deficit, they kept coming at the Oklahoma City Thunder. So shout out to Hallie. I hope a speedy recovery, but also I just want to say congratulations to the Pacers on a wonderful, wonderful season.
Yeah, what a ride, what a run, what a position that they're in as a franchise. I mean, just the fact that they are doing what they've been able to do with Halliburton hitting all these shots, Neesmith, Toppin playing out of his mind in game 6 to even force a game 7. I'm going to answer the question though. I'm going to take the different approach. I don't think Halliburton should have played if his Achilles was where it really was. And the reason why is because, yes, there's no guarantee that you get back there, but you're going to miss the entire next season. His health for this team was a little bit more important than that single game, in my opinion, to be honest with you, because they can get back. Now you have no chance of getting back now at this point. And you probably didn't have a great chance to win that game. Although you had to lead at halftime, there was never a point in that game I thought that the Pacers were winning, even when Halliburton was hitting his first 3 threes of the game. Like, you go up, the game is a game of runs. But that was the best chance that they had to win, no doubt. But given his injury, I personally don't think he should have played. But at the end of the day, he's the one that has to live with it. And he couldn't have lived with himself probably without playing. So I don't blame him for it. But just the fact that he's going to miss all of next year, knowing that it was this bad. He knew it was this bad. They knew it was this bad. So I don't really feel bad from that perspective. Like, it just sucks to see anybody go down like that. So shout out to Halliburton. Shout out to the Pacers. I think they're a solid organization. Rick Carlisle isn't one of my favorite coaches, but definitely respect his ass and the way that he outdueled Dagnall in quite a few games in the series. But Dagnall just had more talent, the best player on the floor in SGA, and the deepest team in the league, who, like I said, were just a wagon all year anyway. So great finals.
Yeah.
Didn't expect for it to go 7 games or anything like that the way that it did, but I'm happy that we got it, and I'm happy that the OKC Thunder can now hoist their first championship. So
for sure. And it's big for the city of Oklahoma City too. You know, you got to think this was a college town, a college state known more for Sooners football than any sort of basketball team. And yeah, you know, 12, they were there about 13 years ago with Durant, Harden, and Westbrook. And yes, these may be a different group of characters, but that author and the architect is still the same. And shout out to Sam Presti, did a wonderful job keeping this group together, believing in SGA, drafting Chet Holmgren, drafting Jalen Williams. There were people like me, Chaz, who thought, should they break up pieces of this young core and go after a Jimmy Butler, go after a more established star? But no, they stood pat. They said, this is our nucleus. We're going to add around it. We're going to trust in a young coach like Mark Dagnall, and we're going to grow together, similar to what they did 15 years ago with Scott Brooks as the head coach, a young head coach at the time, now a Lakers assistant, with a young Kevin Durant, a young Russell Westbrook, James Harden, Serge Ibaka, you know, and several others on that team. And it was a similar formula, although this time there was no LeBron James-led big three to stand in their way, or a Golden State Warriors team, you know, that is one of the greatest of all time. They were able to roll through the Western Conference and eventually punch through. So to me, the best team all year won, and shout out to SGA, man, scoring champ, regular season MVP, man, Western Conference Finals MVP, and now Finals MVP. Hey, Clipperland, how's it feel over there, huh?
I got a question for you, Chris. I got a quick question for you.
What's up? What's up, man? I know we got to move on, but I just wanted to give him his flowers.
It bothers me and Jasmine asked me this. She was like, "How come the players that play the least are always the ones that are holding the trophy at the like during the presentation, like when the commission, like obviously the owner gets it first and it gets passed around, but like it always ends up in somebody's hands that barely played or whatever the case may be." But my question also
Right.
is like, I think no, LeBron was the last person to win the finals MVP in 2013, I think it was, and hold both trophies, the championship trophy and the finals MVP. We don't see players do it anymore. Didn't see Kawhi do it. Never saw Durant or Curry or, Iguodala do it. I don't even really think LeBron. I mean, we did see LeBron do it actually when he won it in 2020, but I'm just wondering, like, if why did SGA nobody hand him the trophy? Like, hey, bro, you won all these trophies. You the best player. Let him have that moment to be like, hey, Kobe holding up both. Like,
Yeah.
I just,
Or Shaq. Go back to Shaq in '01. Remember with the Finals
yeah,
MVP and
I'm just
the Larry O'Brien trophy. Yeah, no, I remember Shaq did that a few times as well. I mean, look, it's yeah, Kobe did do it at the end of the 2010 Finals after they
who get
knocked off the
okay,
Celtics. Yeah, go ahead. No, go ahead.
but who gave it to him? Do you remember who gave it to him?
Oh, that I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, look, dude, what people have to understand, and I don't know, I mean, this is for Jazz or anybody else. This is still, I know we get caught up in stars and we get caught up in who the best players are and dynamic duos and everything like that. That was also a narrative attached to this finals with Jalen Williams, who had a 40-piece in one game in this series. Along with SGA, who had a bunch of great games as well. He did not shoot well in Game 7, but he was dishing the ball well. But this is still a team game, and at the end of the day, there are so many components to this thing, and we're not even just the players, the assistant coaches, the training staff, the analytics department, the video coordinators. There's so many people who make these championships possible that in a moment like this, it's like we all won this. You know what I'm saying? And I think that the star players, yeah, they're going to get their shine, but these role players, they want to get that shine too, because it's very difficult to predict when any of these guys are going to be back there again, let alone some of the role players. So I just want that to be known. And if you're seeing this right now, Chaez is putting up the 2010 Lakers trophy finals presentation. Man, 15 years ago, man, almost to the day.
Who gave it to him, Chris?
That was a really nice
Who
effort.
gave it to him,
Derek
Chris?
Fisher.
Oh,
D Fish.
look at that.
D
Look at that.
Fish.
When's the last time you see a player do that?
Yeah. I think LeBron did in
That's
2020.
what I'm saying. Yep.
And he did that little dance. Yeah, no, it's pretty rare. Anyway, I just wanted to start off the show. I know we're going to get into the draft and the trades. There's been a lot of activity over the last week, but we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about a really solid finals. By the way, I know everyone's going to be like, "Oh man, the small market and the lack of star power, and this was a boring finals." And you know what? Was it the most exciting finals? Not necessarily, but there were some damn good games in there. And these two teams went after it, and they were structured the same way. So I just wanted to give a shout out to this series and to these really good young players that are hopefully going to continue to grow and get better. Go ahead. We got some comments
Yeah,
here.
we're just, I'm going to cycle you guys through. What up, Marcus? I appreciate you following the show, man, tapping in. But yeah, I'm just going to throw these comments up because I just don't understand why
Yeah.
guys don't do that. But let's talk a little bit about the NBA draft, Chris. Like, Cooper Flag
Yes, sir.
is officially the number one pick in the 2025 NBA draft. Ace Bailey actually ended up in Utah after not working out in Utah. You got Dylan Harper, who was expected to go third, goes second. Edgecombe goes to Philly. Those were the top three picks, the bigger picks. One of my favorite picks
Right.
was the big guy out of Duke. I'm not even going to try and butcher his name, but
Come on,
there
Malua.
we go.
Come on,
Thank you,
Malua.
Chris.
Yeah,
Thank you. Just his reaction,
I got
the
you.
gratitude, the crying, everything like that,
Yeah.
the tears of joy. I love the NBA draft and what it does in changing guys. I think it was Walter Clayton Jr. got drafted, and the camera goes to his girlfriend or wife, and clearly his kid, and uh, baby girl takes out her pacifier, and you can clearly she's saying dad, 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 like just those moments, man. Just love the NBA draft. But a big winner for me, the biggest winner is the always the team that gets the best player in the draft.
Yeah.
I love the fact that Cooper Flag ended up in Dallas because Dallas didn't need him, but they did need him for reasons that had nothing to do with just the draft. They needed him in terms of reinvigorating that franchise and losing a star in Luka Doncic that's rocking that purple and gold
Right.
right now. So that's the biggest winner for me. I'm not even going to front and tell you some 14th pick that I have no idea how he's going to turn out and what situation is going to be, an immediate uh, producer. But I know Cooper Flag, Dylan Harper as well, Ace Bailey, even though he didn't want to be in Utah, is going to be good as well. And a lot of
Yeah.
other picks also. But Chris, who are some of your winner and losers? Because we gonna get into some of these trades as
Sure.
well.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree. I think anytime you get the number one pick, and Cooper Flag was clearly the head and shoulders cut. We knew that 6 months ago. We knew that maybe even a year ago. He was working out with Team USA before they went on their Olympic run this past summer in Paris. So we knew Cooper Flag was going to be that guy. And barring any sort of serious injury, he ended up having a fantastic year with Duke. I think Duke ended up where? In the Elite Eight, Chaz? Is that right? No, I'm sorry. They made it to the Final Four.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
They made it to the Final
Final
Four
Four.
Final
Final
Four this year. So Cooper Flag, when you look at some of the comps, a lot of people are saying Scottie Pippen. A lot of people are saying Kawhi Leonard. A lot of people are thinking he's going to be like this really skilled small. I like the situation that he's in right now with the Dallas Mavericks. Players, and one pick goes to Mavs had a whirlwind of a season last year, bringing in Anthony Davis, a slew of injuries that are still going to be there to start the year, mainly to Kyrie Irving. We're going to get to Kyrie a little bit later on. But when you talk about the consummate pros that he is going to be able to learn from day one, the Klay Thompsons, the watching Kyrie work out and just talking to guys who have done it at a high level for a long time, Anthony Davis and so on and so forth. I think what's so great is when he kind of comes into a situation without having to carry a franchise on his back. This kid is 18 years old, by the way. He's not 19. He's not 20. He just turned 18 6 months ago. So by the time the regular season starts, he's still going to be 18. He'll be 19 in December. But to be able to kind of come in and ease your transition, play for a good coach like Jason Kidd, and yeah, there will be expectations. Doesn't need to show out right away. He could really take his time, and you don't always say that with a lot of number one picks. So I think that's the luxury of being drafted by an organization like the Dallas Mavericks. As far as another team that I like what they did, I liked what the New Orleans Pelicans did. They made a trade. They got rid of some salary off their books. Landing who was it, Jordan Poole and Sadiq Bey in the number 40 pick. In tomorrow's draft in round 2, and trading off CJ McCollum and Kelly Olynyk. They could be having another big garage sale in the coming days down there in Nolens and the Big Easy. But they got a really good player in Jeremiah Frears. That was one of their lottery picks. And in a deal that they made with Atlanta, they also got a big man in Derek Queen out of Maryland, who hit a game-winning shot during the tournament this year. So 2 really good, nice young players that addresses their needs of getting a young guard, a young point guard. I still don't know what the future is of DeJounte Murray, but you got to assume some of these guys are going to be gone. And a good center. That was the other issue. Really have a center to play alongside Zion Williamson. So I like Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver are trying to do. Let's address some needs.
You really like
let's
the
get some. I think those 2 guys have got some upside. Yeah. I mean, they got 2 good young players. I mean, yeah, you could throw in Dylan Harper, you could throw in VJ Edgecombe, but I think with those 2 guys, they got 2 impactful players right away. And the one thing that you could say about the Pelicans in recent years, I know last year was a dumpster fire, but they've drafted very well. through the last 4 or 5 years, and they have found some really good picks. So I think Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver are out to a good start so far. So I just like the fact that they got two good young players in the first round. That's what I liked.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I want to talk something outside of NBA draft really quick, Chris. Nico Harrison has put out a statement at the draft. He says, "Are there rumors out there about Jay Kidd?" Talking about Jason Kidd, the head coach. He said, "I thought I shut them down. Yes, he will be the head coach next year." I want to ask really quick.
Yeah.
There's rumors still, and Wendy mentioned it on First Take this morning. Knicks haven't hired a coach.
Right.
J Kidd doesn't have an extension. Anybody that's been
Mm-hmm.
involved in the search or their name or even mentioned for permission for the Knicks has received an extension. Ime Udoka, uh, who else? Who else was it? It wasn't. Who was the other guy? Damn it! In Atlanta, Quinn Snyder
Hold on.
got an
Quinn Snyder.
extension
Yeah,
as
he had an
well.
extension. Yeah, I think Billy Donovan.
What do
They're
you?
working on. They're working on
There we
Billy
go.
Donovan in
Yep,
Chicago too.
Billy
Yeah.
Donovan as well with in Chicago. Like everybody's
Mhm.
getting it, but Jay Kidd still doesn't have one, and he puts out this statement. Are you reading in between the lines like I am, or are you just going to take it on face value? Because I still think there's clearly some interest there, but I don't know.
Well,
I
yeah.
don't feel like the vibes are high in Dallas because they're losing assistants. I'm hearing that Sham God might be, leaving possibly, and he's there because of Kyrie. And we'll get into Kyrie's contract as well. But I just want to ask you, what do you make of that really quick off the cuff?
Yeah, well, first of all, when it comes to Jason Kidd and coaching, it's always been bizarre.
It
When
has.
you go through his, when you go through his coaching history and going back to Brooklyn about 12 years ago in his first job, keep in mind, Jay Kidd retired as a New York Knick at the end of the 2013 season, I believe. And he
Right.
had a job a few months later. I mean, you never go that quick from retirement to head coaching. Usually there's, guys want to enjoy themselves, enjoy retirement, maybe get a job in the front office somewhere. Maybe they'll try out as a coach. So he goes to Brooklyn. That didn't work out well. He had a problem with Lawrence Frank. Remember that? Lawrence Frank was the highest paid assistant in the game. He was
He
reunited
hated
with
that
his old
shit.
head coach. He hated Lawrence
He
Frank.
hated
So,
that
and
shit.
then, and then he ends up going to Milwaukee. He leaves Brooklyn high and dry, ends up in Milwaukee, had some good years there. Then that firing had some controversy to it, and there was a point there where they felt that he snaked Larry Drew, so he just kind of slid right in. They fired Larry Drew after 1 year, and then he ended up as a head coach in Milwaukee until he was fired from there, and then hired on as the lead assistant by the Lakers, and even that had some controversy with it. Oh, he's going to take the job from Frank Vogel. The Lakers wanted to give the job to Kidd, but he had so much baggage because of the DUI and some other things in his personal life. And the thing with Dallas has been pretty controversy free so far, right? And now here's this Knicks situation. It's like, damn, this reminds me all over again of the Milwaukee situation or the Lakers situation. Like, there's always a story with this guy, and I love Jay Kidd. I think he's a fantastic coach. Big part of the Laker championship coaching staff in 2020 under Frank Vogel. I think for now we got to just take it at face value. He's going to stay in Dallas. I don't
Oh
think
God. You said all that to say face value?
I
You
think
know
for
my
now,
voice. You know my voice is messed up. So you get
yeah, I
me all
know.
riled up and shit.
Yeah,
And you're gonna say all that shit and then tell me face value.
I think for now you have to see it at face value. You have to see
Come
that
on,
for
man.
face value for now. Look, I'm not saying, and it wouldn't be a snake situation because the job is vacant right now. However, at the same point in time, I think Kidd, we're not hearing enough from him to basically say that he's going to take that Knicks job. He's still under an active contract. The Mavericks denied permission denied the Knicks permission to even interview Kidd for the job. So unless Jason Kidd resigns, right, where he would have to leave money on the table in order to interview for the Knicks job, then I think you have to think that he's going to stay there for now. I mean, do you think he's going to take that job? I think he's the best one out there, but man, I don't know.
I don't know.
I
I
don't
just
know.
wanted to ask you real quick because that statement by Nico Harrison just got out. I think where there's smoke, there's fire. And until he has an
And with
extension or until New York has a coach, these rumors are going to still live no matter what Nico Harrison says. coming out and saying what he does. So that's it.
And I'll agree with
Um,
you. And I'll agree with you. When there's smoke, there is fire. And Kidd does not deserve the benefit of the doubt because of his history. However,
boom, boom.
until we see otherwise, there's been a lot of times when these things end up going like the exact opposite of what we expect. So I'm just saying, if Kidd was going to make a move, he would have been like, oh, you're going to deny these guys permission to talk to me? I'm out. The time to do it was 2 weeks ago. I think if it hasn't happened, if it didn't happen 2 weeks ago, I doubt it's going to happen now. But we've seen crazier things happen too. So something to keep an eye on.
Moving on to the other team in Texas, well, the second of the three teams in Texas, Kevin Durant lands in Houston. Um, I know the question is, does this make them a real contender? The answer is obviously yes. Let me just say that right away. But did Phoenix get fleeced in this deal, or did they make good because they got Jalen Green, they got Dylan Brooks, and they got the 10th pick as
Right, which
well,
is Malua.
um,
Yeah.
which was Malua as well. So I mean, to get three players like that for a guy that had 1 year left on his contract, although it being Kevin Durant, um, I think personally that the Phoenix Suns did pretty good, all things considered. Could you have gotten more picks? Because that's where you're lacking because you've given up so many of them. Yes, absolutely, in my opinion. But like you could have done without like Dylan Brooks and gotten more picks because Dylan Brooks is not that difference maker, in my opinion.
But you
Especially
needed
when
a
it
salary
comes,
though too. You needed
you
salary
did,
filler. That's where Brooks kind of
you
came in. So
you did, but at the end, then find a third team. Like you could have gotten a little bit more creative to get picks, in my opinion. But on its face, I do like the deal for Phoenix, all things considered, because you had to trade Kevin Durant because you mismanaged the situation so poorly with Bradley Beal, kind of like the Lakers. Like you had to trade, other guys and give up other guys because the Westbrook deal was so bad, right? So, what did you make of this deal, and what does it mean more so for Houston now that they have Kevin Durant and a lineup now because you kept Shingun, you kept Amon Thompson, you kept
yep.
Jabari Smith Jr., Tari Eason, and then you just slot Van Vliet and you slide Kevin Durant right in there with all those guys. What do you make of it, man?
Yeah, I think Houston did a good job in the deal. I really do. The number 10 pick, okay. I mean, the last thing that this team needed was another young piece. That core was established, which is why I told you from the beginning, if we're going to hear KD's name in any sort of trade rumors where if these guys, meaning KD and or Giannis Antetokounmpo, are going to go to a certain team, they need to go to a place where after they get traded for, there are still enough pieces there where they could work with and still be competitive. These guys are not going to want to be a star on a team with a bunch of young, like random young guys or random vets and a team that's basically going to be, a 30-win team with them there. Kevin Durant still wants to be in a position to be competitive. So I like the deal. Actually, I like it for both teams. Now, I know everyone was saying, well, Jalen Green. Yeah, Jalen Green, I said last year, I still believe in him. I think he's a good young player. I think the problem was he did not perform well in the postseason. And when you think about how they lost to Golden State, how did they lose? They lost down the stretch. Golden State had a closer or two with Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler. Houston did not have one. When your closer is Fred VanVleet, and I like Fred, don't get me wrong, and I'm glad to see him back with Houston on a new extension. We'll get to that in a sec. You knew you had a problem there. And Jalen Green played himself off the court, I want to say, in 5, if not 6 games in that series. He had the 38-point game in game 2. After that, dude, he was MIA. He was milk carton all-stars. That first playoff series was that really doomed him. That really, the pressure and the moment, it got to him. It doesn't mean that he's a bust or a bad player or anything like that. Ask Kobe about that. 97, the air balls in Utah. But that became a springboard for him. And hopefully that'll be the same with Jalen Green. But if Houston feels we want to build on what we just accomplished as being a 2 seed in a very competitive Western Conference, then we need to up our game a little bit. And they did it smartly. 5 second-round picks. Maybe there'll be something. Maybe they won't. The number 10 pick, okay, Malua is nice, but we have a top 5 center in the game right now in Şengün. We have an elite 3-and-D wing in Amin Thompson who's getting better. We have Jabari Smith Jr. who can be interchangeable with Durant, either back him up or play alongside with him. You still got a young guard in Reed Shepherd, right? And with Fred VanVleet signing the new contract, right, you actually have a little bit of financial flexibility where you could shore up some other areas of the team, either bring back some of your incumbent free agents or improve the team, to beef up the bench or whatnot. So I think Houston did well. As far as Phoenix, they got some decent pieces. If they want to move off from Devin Booker at some point, at least you have a young piece in Jalen Green. Dylan Brooks could be somebody you flip later on to a contender, because of his value as a 3-and-D wing, as an enforcer. And we'll see what this Malua guy does from Duke, as a center. So I thought it was a good deal for both teams, but obviously Houston got the better of it.
Absolutely. Moving on to another deal for the Celtics. They made a couple deals, Chris. They get rid of Porzingis in a salary dump move, and they get Anthony Simons for Drew Holiday and a first-round pick. Which one of those deals do you think makes more sense for the Celtics? And what do you see from them moving forward? I know I'm sliding in something that we didn't talk about before, but I'd be
No,
remiss.
that's fine. Yeah.
Unbelievable, Chris. Max Muncy with another grand slam in the same week. I just had to share that.
No, that's fine. I thought my screen froze because you are looking like a statue.
I could not believe I keep games on in the background, and man, they just blew this thing open in Colorado.
Yeah, and here I am trying to stay focused and be eloquent and articulate. And here you are.
I had to tell you.
I know, and I appreciate that. By the way, shout out to Max Muncy. He's been one of the best hitters in baseball over the last month. Since he was really slow out of the gate. So it just goes to show you, sometimes you got to give guys the runway. Okay, what was the question? It was about Boston, right?
Yes.
Yeah, Boston made two. I have to know, Chaez, does Chris just naturally sound like this? He sounds like an announcer. Wow, thank you, Marcus. Yes, I do sound like an announcer. Like Cedric the Entertainer said in Talk to Me, don't blame me, it's the voice. Hey, Marcus, you just made my night, and I think
why?
And they're gonna drive this guy nuts.
Why are you gassing him,
my guy?
But go ahead. Appreciate you, Marcus.
Keep it up, man.
Shout out my man Mansfield tapping in too.
Marcus, MGD, Marcus Garcia Draper, MGD, baby. Okay, yeah, going back to Boston. Yeah, Boston, they had to make some tough decisions this week. They were going into the second apron as part of the salary cap. We knew that some moves were going to come through the pipeline. We just didn't really know who. We thought maybe Drew Holiday, Porzingis, Derek White. Jaylen Brown's name really came up a lot more than I thought. And I'm glad Boston did what they did. They had to. Drew Holiday, 3 years, over $100 million left. He's 35 years old. He's still a fantastic player. And I think, unfortunately for him, for the second time in 3 years, he's being traded to Portland as part of another blockbuster deal, but he's not going to stay there. I'm sure Portland will try to flip him if they can, but it's a lot of years to take on, and expensive years, where that wasn't the case a few years ago when they made the trade, when Milwaukee made the trade to get Damian Lillard. Porzingis, that was a pure salary dump. No disrespect to George Niang or anything like that. But it was a salary dump for Boston. But it was a good pickup for the Atlanta Hawks. It was a 3-team deal, and the Hawks end up getting a all-star caliber big whose value is low right now, who I believe has 1 year left on his contract, right, as part of the 2-year extension that he originally signed with Boston. So now you get an all-star caliber center with a pretty good young nucleus, Jalen Johnson. You still got Trae Young. You got that guy, Risa Che, Karis LeVert. So Atlanta, I don't know. I mean, they could still be. Yeah, I mean, they could still have some success. They could have some success this season. Yeah, Neko Kongu. So, and actually Porzingis could probably play alongside some of those young bigs because of his ability to space the floor. So, Porzingis just got to get himself right. I mean, it wasn't the fact that he was hurt with that leg injury. There was something wrong internally with him, some respiratory thing. Somebody was throwing out some conspiracy theories that he had mono or HIV or something. I hope it's nothing that serious. And I hope whatever's wrong with him, he kicks that shit and he's able to, get himself back right.
He
But
says he's fine,
these
by
were
the way.
necessary moves for Boston. Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope so. I hope so. That's what I'm saying. Boston had to do this. In order to get killed by the second apron. And when you have new owners coming in, they don't want to inherit the other guy's debt. So it sucks that they're in this position of selling off talent when we thought they were going to potentially start forming a dynasty. But they made a tough yet necessary decision. They decided to hold on to Derek White for now, decided to hold on to Jaylen Brown. They're going to see what Tatum looks like when he gets back, but he's going to probably be out next year. And Simons is a pretty good player that they got in the process. So Boston will be
Simons
a
is out of there after
play-in,
this year
perhaps
too, by
maybe
the
a
way.
top 6 team. What? Simon's going to be out this year?
Yeah, there's no way they hold on to him, in my opinion, unless he
Oh, no. I
makes
thought,
an
I'm sorry.
all-star
Yeah.
team or yeah,
No,
he's not
no.
going to be there long term. He's just there for, like you said, filler, salary. Jason Tatum's out, somebody to score the
Right.
ball, things of that nature. I don't anticipate if he's there for more than 2 years, really a year. I'm shocked for Simons because
You didn't like the trade,
like
though. You didn't like the Drew Holiday trade. You thought they should have traded
I,
White. I wanted to ask your opinion and elaborate on that.
no, Drew Holiday's a better player, but he makes more, and you needed to get up under you need to get up under the second apron by a lot, and I believe they're saving over 180 million dollars with these two deals combined already, and we haven't even played a game into the next season. So, I mean, I took a look at that Drew Holiday contract, and it was like, bro, it's gonna be pretty.
Yeah.
It's a lot of years left on that thing. So in 4 years,
Yeah.
I don't know
Two
if he's gonna be
guaranteed.
worth $40 million, which, by the way, segues right into something else that somebody else got or plans to get, and that's a $40 million deal, a 3-year deal extension for Kyrie, completely foregoing his option for this year, and is going to take a $3 million haircut from next year, but gets 2 more years at $40 million on top of it. So it's 119 million over the next three. He stays in Dallas, likely not going to play much of anything this year with that torn ACL. So he kind
Yeah.
of got the Kevin Durant treatment, where Brooklyn took in KD off a torn Achilles, knowing that they were going to pay him that first year without even stepping on the court. So I think this
Yeah.
deal is good for Dallas. They had to keep Kyrie since Luka Doncic is in LA now, and you need that guy to man the floor, especially once he does get back on the floor. But the fact that you got a player like Kyrie even on the roster in the locker room helps as well, especially when you got AD, Cooper Flag now, and a host of others like Gafford and Lively. So I like the deal for Dallas. And quick, like there was a point, I think in 2021, 2022, where we didn't know if Kyrie was going to get another deal at one
Yeah.
point.
Amidst
So I
all the
just want to highlight
controversy. Yeah.
miss all that controversy and getting, suspended and having to go through a checklist of shit within the Jewish community to even get back on the floor, which I personally thought was bullshit. But I just want to highlight the fact that what one man says, he doesn't have the final say. God does. And this deal proves that, in my opinion, because I'm not going to forget what the league tried to do to Kyrie during that time. What do you make of it?
Yeah. I mean, I think going to Dallas was actually the best thing for him during that time. He had to get out of Brooklyn. That became a toxic situation, which he, put out statements or tweets or whatever. I don't want to rehash all of that. It was a bad situation though. And Kyrie had to answer for that. He's been at times a controversial figure throughout his career, on the court stuff, off the court stuff. Let's not act like everything's been hunky dory for him. I think the last 3 or 4 years have been better for him. I would say really the last 2 to 3 since his time in Dallas. He's had a family during that time. I think he got married. I think he's got does he have 2 kids or 1 kid? But he's a father now. So I think that
Two.
always kind of changes. Yeah, he's got 2 kids. And I don't think Kyrie's a bad guy. I just think maybe a little misunderstood. Maybe, just some decisions that were made, the end of his time in Cleveland, the stuff with LeBron, the end of his time in Boston, these situations didn't end well, and certainly they didn't end well in Brooklyn. So yeah, you're right. There was a lot of uncertainty on whether or not he was going to get another opportunity. Would he play himself out of the league or whatnot? But I think Mark Cuban took a chance on him. They were able to really, I think Cuban tried to understand him and not try to control him or anything like that, and just say, look, let's clean slate. Let's focus on the game right now. And we'll help you get back at it. And I think it was the best thing for him. And what did it lead to, Chaz? Last year, let's not forget, Dallas was in the finals. They were 3 wins short. I mean, I know they got pounded by Boston, and I think anyone was going to get pounded by Boston, but he was a big reason why, as much as everyone is going to give the credit to Luka Doncic, and Luka was outstanding in last year's playoffs, man. I mean, he had one great moment after another and beat some really good opponents along the way. But you're not there without the contributions of Kyrie Irving. The dude is box office. He's an excellent finisher. He's a potential Hall of Famer. He's an all-star. He's an all-NBA first-teamer. It sucks that he tore his ACL. It sucks that he's going to miss a lot of this season. But I think Dallas felt, you know what? Let's take care of him now. Let's give ourselves 2 years with this core group led by Kyrie and AD, and let's see what we could accomplish in that. You know, if we can't do anything in 2 years, then we'll consider cutting ties with AD, cutting ties with Kyrie. But I think that is what this ownership group and Nico Harrison, that is their focus right now. Let's develop Cooper Flag, but let's also see what this core group of Clay, Kyrie, and AD, Lively, and some of these other guys, and they may trade a few other dudes, but that's going to be their nucleus for the next few years. So let's see what we can do in a very competitive Western Conference. So we'll see what happens.
PJ Washington on that team is going to be, man, I can't wait to see what he blossoms into over the course of the next few years, especially in the role that he has on that team. I think I think highly of him. So last topic of the night, Chris.
Chaz, hold on. I want to ask you one question about Kyrie. Given his injury history, what do you expect? And I believe this is year 14 he's going into, right? So that would make him about 33, right? 33, 34. I want to say his age. Off the top of my head, what does he look like when he comes back from this ACL? You know, given all the other injuries he's dealt with, I just wanted your take on that before we move on.
The longer he waits, the better he'll look. So if he's rushing back, trying to get on the floor, he's going to look like dog shit because his game is predicated off of cutting inward, outward, laterally, and juking guys and doing stuff like that. So he really needs to take the full year. Him, Dame, Halliburton, Tatum, those are 4 guys, honestly, we should not see at all next season. But chances are we'll see 1, maybe 2 of them, depending on how they recover. And, because it is early enough in the, or late enough in the season or early enough in the year to where they could possibly technically recover. So that's what I think about it. Last one for you.
Okay.
VanVleet. We're talking a lot of Houston tonight, but they're making moves and they got a solid team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
25 a year. That VanVleet was set to make 45 mil next year. The Rockets said, we like you, but not that much. We're going to decline that, but give you 2 years, 50 million, 25 a year, because that's more in line for him. Also bringing in a guy like Kevin Durant. What did you make of the deal? And what does this mean for them now that they have a veteran like this that's signed for a couple more years with this young core group?
Yeah, I mentioned earlier, they still have the number 3 pick in last year's draft in Reed Shepherd, but I think if you're in a position to win now, you don't want to bank on a guy like Reed Shepherd to all of a sudden say, go out there and lead the offense. I mean, I just don't think Reed Shepherd is there. He spent most of the year down in the G League. So I think they felt, you know what, VanVleet, even if he's not scoring a lot, brings a veteran presence. He's a former champion. He's a former 6th man of the year. We believe in this guy's ability to at least set up the offense. And they, once again, able to take a pay cut. I think he was set to make $45 million this year if they would have exercised that team option. Now they opt him out, but they re-sign him to 2 years, a little bit smaller of a contract. And what does that allow you to do? Allows you to financial flexibility, stay out of the second apron, but also shore up some of the other areas that you might be weak in, most notably building up a bench. So that's where I think the Van Vliet signing is impactful. Not necessarily. I mean, yes, bringing him back is important for the reasons that I said: the veteran leadership, setting up the offense, knocking down the open three, able to play off the ball. I think he'll be a good complement to KD and continue to be a complement to Şengün. But it's the contract itself, what it allows you to do as the Rockets try to shore up this team. What were your thoughts on it? Shore up the rest of this team, I should say.
I just love the fact that they didn't pay him 45 next year, especially off the season he had and going out in the first round. Like, he was literally signed for that team to get to the 2 seed. And I get it was the Warriors, but that's what you were signed for. So the fact that he couldn't really push them over the hump, wasn't dealing with any major injuries that we know of, at least. And it was clear he wasn't a $50 million guy or $45 million guy or even a $40 million guy. Getting them at 25 was the right business move and uh great deal for Raphael Stone. So I like what Houston's doing. I just want to see what these other teams are going to do because trade season is here. And even though draft night wasn't any blockbuster major trades yet, you got to get into free agency. Guys have to figure out where they're going, where other guys are going before they know where they're going or what their options really are, or if they want to ask out. Because Chris, every year we always get some guy that we didn't see coming that asks out and is all of a sudden available. Last year, the year before it was Dame. This year was Luka, Jimmy Butler. During the season was completely, I mean, you could kind of see the writing on the wall after he didn't get his extension in the offseason, but we didn't think that thing would go Minnesota sideways like he did, or even Philly sideways when he left Philly as well, or even James Harden being available out of Philly a couple years ago as well.
Yeah, I mean, there are some names already floating out there. We got to see what happens with Bradley Beal. Bradley Beal's got 2 more, I believe, very expensive contracts. One of them is a player option, but you got to imagine he's gonna opt in. Bradley Beal, the Phoenix Suns, so you have to watch out for that. DeMar DeRozan, actually, you got to watch out for Sacramento because they've got about potentially 2 or 3 pretty big trade targets. DeMar DeRozan, we'll see about Zach LaVine. I think that contract now becomes a little bit more palatable, and now Domantas Sabonis. His name is starting to be floating out there. So you got to watch out for some of those things. Trae Young, I kind of feel like he's been in trade rumors the last 3 years, but he still remains in Atlanta. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. And of course, Paul George, but I just don't know who wants to take on this salary or who's able to take on the salary. Just like I mentioned earlier about Drew Holiday. Drew Holiday, now there was a report saying, Chaz, he doesn't want to be in Portland. And now it's like, who can afford to take on that contract? No, I wouldn't want to be there. However, I don't know what the option. No, I wouldn't want to be. I'm sure Portland's a great town and everything, but Drew Holiday's been used to being on contenders, dude. He's been used to being on contenders. I'm sure Portland is a great town. I haven't been there.
Great disclaimer.
Rip City. The only guy that actually wanted to be there was Damian Lillard, and he's gone. So. I'm just saying that it's hard to move some of these contracts. That's what I'm saying. So we're going to see what happens. By the way, shout out to Orlando. That was a bold move to get Desmond Bane. I didn't like the fact that they gave up all those draft picks or a good guard like Cole Anthony, but they believe that he's going to be the right fit next to Banchero and Franz Wagner. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens there. MGD, clearly also, he's like your sidekick right now. Virtual sidekick, would you? But and also we got to see what the Lakers are going to do, man. Lakers, they've been quiet so far.
That's the news I'm waiting for. That's the news. Mark Williams got traded for a bucket of ice today to Phoenix.
Not necessarily a bucket of ice. I mean, what was it? They got the 29th pick tonight. I don't even know who that became. And they got a first rounder in 4 years.
They got a first rounder in 4 years.
Yeah, but I mean, if Phoenix is trending in the wrong direction, that pick might be of value. I mean, still, a first-round pick's a first-round pick. So, I mean, if nothing else, it's an asset that could be used later. So even if you don't use it yourself, you could trade it. Yeah, exactly. And that's if you don't believe me about currency, ask the exec of the year, Sam Presti. That he'll tell you about the currency and hoarding all those picks. That is huge right there. So Yeah, and shout out to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They had a number 15 pick tonight. They got some center out of UConn, didn't they? Sorbson or something. I don't know if it was out of UConn. See, I didn't even know some of these guys tonight getting drafted, dude. They were a bunch of randos.
Yeah, because that's what college basketball is. Because guys just switch teams and the transfer portal, and that's just kind of how it is now. You said it was at 15,
It was at
or
15. Yeah, no, they got this guy Sorbson or something. Who was it?
Thomas Sorber
Thomas
from
Sorber,
center from
Georgetown. Georgetown.
Georgetown.
Yeah, no, for
Um,
sure. And Phoenix pick, they got that's what I was thinking. UConn, the number 29 pick that Phoenix got in the or I'm sorry, that Charlotte got from Phoenix as part of the Mark Williams deal was Liam McNeely out of Connecticut. So yeah,
Walter Clayton Jr., Utah.
yeah,
Love it. Really quick,
yes, sir.
Mark Walter and Jeannie Buss finally came out and confirmed the Lakers selling for $10 billion evaluation. What did you make of their quotes?
About what I expected. Very, very down the middle. I think Mark wanted to put away any sort of controversy right away. Doesn't want to come into a new situation and be like, yeah, well, we'll see about Jeannie and blah, blah, blah. He clearly is going to give this a couple of years with her as the governor and, someone who's going to be sort of the face of it, if you would. I almost think, you know what I think Jeannie is? I just thought about this. Jeannie is Magic Johnson with the Dodgers. Magic Johnson was sort of the face man of the ownership group and everything. And, I don't know what the official capacity is. I think that's what Jeannie is going to be. And another comp that I would have is Jeannie's going to have a similar role to when her father owned the team. So she goes to the meetings. She meets with the other team governors and team owners, and she reports back to her father, or in this case now she reports back to Mark Walter. And they're going to try that dynamic, I think, out for a little while.
I say he's out in 5 years
I
or
think less,
less.
but yeah, I think definitely less. Or they minimize her role,
I think she's completely out as a decision maker. She may be like a mascot, or she might still have her seats, or she might be an ambassador is the word, not mascot. Sorry. If Jeannie, if you're
Or
watching,
like an
forgive me.
advisor.
Yeah, some
Or an
shit. So
advisor. Yeah.
yeah,
This is what I'm saying. This is what I'm saying, though. When you're a new owner, right? Just like buying up a company, I'm going to buy this company, right? What's always the first thing that you see? You see people get laid off. You see new CEOs. You see, people that used to be CEOs and CFOs get reassigned at work, at best get reassigned. So, this will be a very interesting dynamic. And the fact that Mark has already owned, we can't forget this, Chaez. Mark Walter has been a minority owner for the last 4 years. So he already has a relationship with Jeannie. She's not a stranger to him. So I think this was maybe also part of the package and part of the deal and everything. You keep me on for a certain amount of time and whatnot until, you feel comfortable to move on from me and whatnot. I think that's what it is. And even then, she may never completely be away from the team. She'll probably just be an advisor behind the scenes. I mean, does that sound crazy?
no,
Sound reasonable?
sounds reasonable. We'll see how it shakes out.
It's weird
Uh,
though. I agree.
yeah. So, well, we appreciate you guys tapping in to the outlet forum this week. Uh, my voice is about to go, guys, so I'm not even gonna sit. I'm not even gonna sit here and sugarcoat it. Appreciate everybody tapping in. You guys know where to follow us. Our ats are right here. Chris, close us out, dog.
Absolutely. Be sure to follow us on YouTube, X, IG at the Outlet Forum. That's at the Outlet Forum. Chaez, even with the raspy throat, was still able to get through this show. We got NBA free agency coming up. There's going to be a lot more moves coming through the pipeline. We are not going to have a show next Wednesday. I will be out of town, a much needed vacation, but we will be back. I believe that'll be July 9th. We'll be back and we will be breaking down a lot of the marquee moves that'll hopefully be happening between now and then. So Chaez will now have 2 weeks to get his voice right. What were you going
No
to say?
show next week. You
No
guys
show
have a
next
good
week.
4th of July weekend.
Yes, sir.
I'll be at a couple Dodger games, barbecuing with the family, hopping in the pool. Can't wait. See you guys in a couple weeks.